Welcome to episode 34 of Shane Talks 99, August 6th, 1999. This is what weekends in 1999 were made for. I know the last few episodes have been kind of filled with some blah and okay movies and whatnot, but that changes this week. We've got four studios fighting it out of the box office, and two of those films don't even realize how amazing they are going to be and how long they're going to resonate in cinema history. So, I'm honestly hoping to keep this episode under an hour because there's just so much to talk about. We got a rom-com heist remake. We got one of the earliest wannabe superhero movies. We have an animated flick about a robot from outer space, and we've got the world's first real taste of M. Night Shyamalan's twist. So much good shit to talk about this weekend. All right, here we go. I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna try to keep this as short as possible. But with four movies, you know how much I like to talk and like how much I'm gonna want to talk about these movies. So it's gonna be tough. But here we go. Enough with the small chatter. Let's get going. I don't even know. I don't even know which way I want to start. I don't know if we should start with my favorite or if we should go by like box office numbers or you know what? Let's do like reverse favorites. We'll start. I like all four of these movies, but we'll go in like a reverse order of how much I like them. Okay. First up, MGM released their remake of the Thomas Crown Affair, which was originally a 1968 film starring Steve McQueen, Faye Dunaway, and was directed by Norman Jewison. Big shoes to fill. Those are three powerhouse names from the 60s. And truth be told, despite how amazing that cast and director is, I've still never seen the original. So in 1999, I had nothing to compare it to, but I knew it was directed by John McTiernan, who is a top-notch director for a very brief period of time. He did Predator, Die Hard with a Vengeance, The Hunt for Red October, Last Action Hero, just like a lot of great late 80s and 90s, like fun action movies. This is technically probably his last good movie that he directed. It's smart and it's got some moments that like I'm not gonna say are like groundbreaking and like what I mean, there's something groundbreaking in this movie, and I gotta figure out how can I tastefully address this. The film cast includes Rene Russo, an absolutely stunningly beautiful woman who had previously done movies like Major League, some Lethal Weapon movies, In the Line of Fire, Outbreak, Tin Cup, Ransom, like an amazing body of work. And now it's time for her to show off her amazing body in this work. I don't know if she's ever done nudity before or after this. I can't think of any other time, but Rene Russo embraces the perfection of her body, and we get full topless Rene Russo twice in this movie. Um, Man, I can't lie. That of everything in this movie, that is what stuck out with me the most. And honestly, what I was looking forward to most with my rewatch. But anyway, I just wanted to address that. Rene Russo shows off an extremely perfect female body in this movie. She stars opposite of James Bond himself. At that time, Pierce Brosnan was our good old 007. And he's playing more of like an anti-hero in this movie, like a rich guy who steals art because it's fun. And then it becomes like this cat and mouse game between him, Rene Russo's character, and then also the cop that's involved in all of this is played by Dennis Leary, who is always phenomenal in every single thing that he ever touches. So like there's a lot of good charm in this movie. Pierce Brosnan gets to use his 007 charm and seduces Rene Russo throughout the movie, pretty much doing what any billionaire playboy would do in order to seduce a woman. And it's fun to watch the evolution between these two characters. Like they are two extremely egotistical characters that butt heads but also in a super flirtatious manner. So like it's really fun and awesome to watch. Um, it's an okay script. It's a pretty decent, couple of plot twists in it that are pretty good. But like, I mean, that's not what's like special about this movie in any way. It's kind of a predictable movie. It was free to watch on Tubi with commercials, but after I watched it, I went ahead and put it on my Apple Watch list. If it ever goes on sale for like $5, I'll definitely pay for it to have it in my collection because I like it. I don't love it, but it's a well done and enjoyable. It's that cat and mouse, rich guy messing with the cops movie. Like it's got some good stuff in it that I really enjoy. Next up, our second film of this weekend. It was a Universal Pictures release, and it was sitting right in the middle of 1998's Blade and 2000's X-Men as far as like superhero movies go. So like honestly, rewatching this movie, I kind of was like, this is kind of how I could see the inspiration for The Boys. Like, I know The Boys is super popular right now about, superheroes that do fucked up stuff, but like, it's a PG-13 movie, so it's obviously like a watered down version of that. But like, I could see, I don't remember who created the comic book, but I could see them in the 90s getting high and watching Mystery Men and being like, this would be a lot better if it was rated R and the superheroes did more fucked up stuff in it and that evolving into The Boys. I can definitely see that happening. The movie I'm talking about is Mystery Men. It is an epic superhero comedy when like comic book movies weren't a big thing. Like this was before X-Men started the bubble that we are now living in 20 years, 24 years later, with Deadpool and Wolverine coming out recently. Like we've got Champion City. And this is a city that is just full of people that want to be superheroes. And in this city, there is an actual legit superhero named Captain Amazing, who is played by Greg Kinnear. Kind of a Superman spoof character, lawyer by day, superhero, by night. Um, he's got an arch nemesis named Casanova Frankenstein, who is played by Jeffrey Rush. And Jeffrey Rush is phenomenal in this movie as a villain. He's just so suave and so I mean Casanova was a perfect name for him. Just like and he plays the character so well. Casanova Frankenstein is sitting in like essentially Arkham Asylum. I can't remember what it's called in the movie, but so he's sitting in Arkham Asylum essentially, and Captain Amazing comes up with this plan of like I've got no villains left to fight. We should let Casanova Frankenstein go so he can do some stupid stuff so that I can be a superhero again. Great plan in theory, terribly executed once he gets out and basically becomes Simon Phoenix and does a bunch of terrible stuff and, kidnaps Captain Amazing. Then comes our main cast who decided they need to go save Captain Amazing from Casanova Frankenstein. And this cast is huge. And like excuse me, I'm gonna have to be quick talking about them because like otherwise this could literally be an hour by itself if I talked about the amazing cast and all the amazing stuff that they've done comedically and stuff like that. But like, let me just give you the rundown of the cast of characters in this movie. We got Ben Stiller, we got William H. Macy, we got Hank Azaria, we got Janine Garofalo, Paul Rubens, let's see, Wes Studi, Kel Mitchell is in this movie. Sarah Forlani plays the love interest to Ben Stiller's character, and obviously she's amazing in everything she does. Eddie Izzard, Tom Waits, Ricky Jay, Artie Lang, Dane Cook, Doug Jones, and Sung Kang are also all in this movie. Like amazing. And granted, most of these are cameos. Most of these are like guys who have one scene or like a 2 minute scene at most. Like it's all really small parts, but it is an amazing group of people that were all brought together to be a part of this movie. It is so awesome. And it's like this cast of characters of these like low budget wannabe terrible superheroes, like super, I use in quotes, superheroes that all come together to try to save the day together. And like there's some really good team building moments that provide a lot of laughs, especially once the character of the Sphinx gets introduced to the cast. Like him and Mr. Furious button heads and like just talking smack to each other. Like so much fun, so well done. And again, like I gotta get moving on, but like I could do a whole episode on these characters, on their stupid superpowers, how it all works together, like all this bizarreness that goes on in the movie. But like as a comedy, as a spoof of things like I mean, we had just 2 years earlier got Batman Forever, which was like spoof. Like I don't even know if you can really consider that a superhero movie because of how outrageous and over the top it all was. But like this movie leans into that on purpose. Like whereas Batman and Robin was like trying to make a serious Batman. I don't think they were making a serious Batman movie, but like we're trying to really make a Batman movie. Like this takes that concept and just blows it up and is just like, let's be as dumb and ridiculous as possible. And then let's throw in Smash Mouth's All Star just to get the vibe going really well in the movie. And like to this day, I still remember the music video for All Star. And like it's so good, so well done. Um, so yeah, Mystery Men, really fun and enjoyable flick. Third on the list, easily on my Mount Rushmore of animated films of all time. Literally one of the best animated movies I can ever think of. solid movie. Brad Bird's first directorial film that he did. Warner Brothers released The Iron Giant on August 6th, 1999. And Brad Bird's original pitch for this film was, what if a gun had a soul and didn't want to be a gun? And that's just flawless. Like that is just perfect. That just makes so much sense for what this movie is and how much I love it. And like the, you know, free will to not be what we're supposed to be. Recently, earlier this year, I got to go watch it on the big screen again. I think the first time in 25 years I saw it on the big screen. All those emotions are still there. That movie just plays so well. It's so like it's literally perfection as far as narrative storytelling goes, as far as animation goes. Like it's I almost want to call it flawless. Like you've got the nostalgia of the 1950s and the Cold War and how it plays into the story. The movie was drawn with traditional 2D animation, but then when they put the Iron Giant in, they actually used CGI for him to make him feel out of this world, to make him feel different. He's a lot crisper and like looks a lot sharper and has that sci-fi vibe to him that you don't get from the rest of the movie. The rest of the movie very much feels like traditional 1950s animation and just like, 20 frames per second or whatever, animation was back then. Like it's it fits so well and just like I mean I don't even think a lot of people like pay attention or figure out that that's what they're watching is these two different styles of animation being blended together for a reason. Like the whole movie is just so heartfelt, and specifically the third act when the giant gets vilified because he's being provoked, and then like at the end he has to make that choice to be Superman. Like oh my god, I mean that finale, the ultimate. Oh my God! Like this movie is 25 years old. How am I getting so choked up and emotional over like a moment in an animated film that I've seen hundreds of times? Like it is literally an amazing piece of storytelling, and like this simple story about a boy and his robot and how they're both misunderstood. Like I love everything about it. Like the emotional trauma of this little boy who has no friends, who he can't make friends, and then all of a sudden he finds this robot who becomes like his best friend, and like this vibe. Like it's like movies where the two main characters don't speak the same language, but they have this knowledge and understanding. Like watching Hogarth and the Iron Giant like create that bond between the two of them. Like and then for Hogarth, who like through this whole movie we see how alienated he is. He gets a friend, and then in the third act, like he has to watch that best friend of his sacrifice himself to be the hero that the story needs. Like, dude, this is flawless storytelling. Like it is so well executed, and like just a quick couple of cast members to talk about. Hogarth is played by Eli Marienthal, who just a couple of weeks ago we were talking about the movie American Pie. Eli was actually Stifler's little brother in that movie. The other adult voices that are in the movie: Jennifer Aniston, Harry Connick Jr., Christopher McDonald, and then in one of his earliest roles, Vin Diesel gives us the voice of the Iron Giant. Granted, not a lot of lines of dialogue, but like it kind of sets up emotionally how he was able to play Groot and do the voice of Groot because of what he did with this role, back in 1999. So like technically, the Iron Giant, I believe, is considered a box office flop. If I remember right, the budget's between 70 and 80 million dollars. Its opening weekend was like 5 million. Grand total box office was somewhere between 30 and 35 million domestically. But I think that the cult following that this movie has gotten over the past 25 years literally makes up for all of that. Like, there are some movies in this world that just aren't hits at the box office, but what they do later and like the audience that gets them, like, I really just blame the marketing on this movie because like it came out, in the middle of the summer when stuff like Tarzan was out. I don't think it was marketed very well being an end of the summer movie. I don't think it was really marketed towards adults because it is like it's a kids movie. It's about a kid and his robot, but it is very adult oriented. Like the themes that go on in this movie, like it's a kids movie, but it's for anybody who just doesn't feel like like they ever have a place, like they don't fit in with other people. Like that's who this movie is for, and I think that's why it resonates with a lot of people. Like I don't think I've ever met a person who didn't like this movie. I think everybody that I've ever talked to about it has loved it. I think everybody that I have shown it to over the years has fallen in love with this movie. Like It's flawless. Like it literally it's a kids animated movie that makes adults cry because of how good it is. And like I can't even begin to express how much I love this movie. And finally, we do have a fourth film. If you haven't got enough awesome yet on this weekend, I've got one more for you. I don't know if I can say I like this movie more than The Iron Giant. I do think it is pretty close to flawless cinema. But I went ahead and decided to make this last because it was the second biggest film at the box office in 1999, and for a good reason. Like this movie came out on August 6th of 1999. I remember I worked at Clearwater at the time. I remember the first week of December in 1999, 4 months later, this movie was still running a full four movie show, like show set. Like it still was playing and selling enough tickets to justify four showings a day. A lot of movies back in 1999 could last 4 months, but by that fourth month, they were on like splitting a screen. Like, a movie like this would show like two matinee shows for kids. I'm sorry, no, I'm not talking about if the Iron Giant was still on screen in, 4 months later, it would split screen with it. It would have two showtimes in the afternoon for the Iron Giant and two showtimes in the evening for the Sixth Sense. But the Sixth Sense was so good and doing so much business still. 4 months later, it had a full set of shows, and there's a reason for that because it literally is one of the best. Well, like one of the best. Like, how do I want to even say it? Like twist ending movies that there has ever been. There's a lot of movies that like the end, you're like, oh, what a twist! Oh, that's crazy. But like I feel like Hollywood had kind of gotten away from that in the 80s and the early 90s. Like I don't feel like Seven was a good twist ending. Like didn't really see that coming in what they did, but it wasn't like mind blowing. It was just like, oh my God, I can't believe what they're doing at the end of this movie. But like this movie was one of those movies that it changes the entire narrative once you know the end. It changes the way you watch everything. Things like Memento, like Memento. Once you know the end of Memento, watching everything that Leonard goes throughout the movie and what the other characters do to him, like it changes your perception of what the movie Memento is actually about. Same thing with this movie. Like when you know the twist, it changes everything about the movie. And so, like this movie was released by Spyglass, our fourth studio that released the movie on August 6th of 1999. And I know there's a lot of people that shit talk this movie and claim that they saw the end coming. Sorry, don't believe you. I do not in any way believe you if you say you saw the end of this movie coming. I'm sorry. If you were in the movie theater, like those are people who obviously had it spoiled for them and want to claim that they didn't, or somebody told them to look for something in the movie, or like if you went and watched The Sixth Sense that opening weekend, August 6th, August 7th, August 8th of 1999, having no knowledge of what any of your friends told you about the movie or like any hints that somebody might have given you, there's no possible way you could have seen this ending coming. Yes, everything is laid out for you in the movie, but you don't see it the first time. You don't see it until you know the ending. The things that you're looking for, the things that are there and that are obvious, there's no way you knew them before. Like it's just I'm sorry. I've gotten in this argument with numerous people, and to this day, I'm sorry to those friends of mine that I don't believe, but I don't. M. Night Shyamalan changed the twist endings in Hollywood forever. He took something that had been done before and made it 1,000 times better. And it's possibly detrimental to his career. He's never lived up to this again. He's given us some twisty stuff that's been good, but overall, he doesn't have the greatest track record for twist ending movies moving forward. So, again, I'm sorry, I don't believe you if you say you figured it out before. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't. Let's jump back a little bit. 1995, M. Night Shyamalan completed his first like real feature-length film, a movie called Wide Awake. And truth be told, the only reason I even know this movie exists is because Julia Stiles has a very small role in that movie. And that movie, after it was finished in 1995, got buried by Harvey Weinstein. Yes, our big villain of Miramax, Harvey Weinstein, disagreed with M. Night Shyamalan's vision of the movie. It's not a twist ending movie. It's a pretty straightforward movie about a boy growing. I mean, I guess it's kind of got a twist-ish ending to it, but I don't know, maybe. But anyway, like M. Night Shyamalan had a vision for the movie, cut it together, submitted it to Weinstein. Weinstein said, "No, I want to change a bunch of stuff." And Shyamalan and the star of the movie, Rosie O'Donnell, went and said, "No, we don't want you to change it." So Harvey Weinstein got pissed and just buried the movie. Let's fast forward a couple of years, wasn't released. 1998, M. Night Shyamalan sold the script for The Sixth Sense after a huge Hollywood bidding war. M. Night Shyamalan became the hottest name in Hollywood at that moment because the script was that good, because it is that good. And all of a sudden, Weinstein was like, I guess I'm going to release this movie and try to be like, oh, here's M. Night Shyamalan's first movie that he's doing before The Sixth Sense. It is what it is. It was a box office flop. I didn't see it until 2000 when I was working at a video store. Happened to know that Julia Stiles was in it because after 1999, I was pretty obsessed with her. Watched it. It's fine. It's an okay movie. It's not amazing. It's not great, but like it is what it is. So enough about history. On to this amazing feat in narrative storytelling that is The Sixth Sense. It's the story of a boy who can see dead people. It's the story of a boy who needs to help dead people with their unfinished business so that they can proceed into the afterlife. Now that's a story that's been done before. There's other, books and movies that have done a similar like help ghosts move on in the afterlife type thing, but like nothing like this. Nothing to the point where you don't know that the main character is dead and you didn't know. Sorry, you didn't. There's some good jump scares in the movie, but it's not like a horror movie. Like it's it's a psychological thriller wrapped up in emotional grief that just happens to have a couple of scary moments in it. Like the dark and muted tones of this movie that then get highlighted by the color red throughout the movie, and you're like, oh, that's red. And then once you know the end of the movie and you see the significance and importance of the color red, then you understand when you go and rewatch the movie all of those moments of red and how important they are to what's going on in the film. The story's pretty simple. Upon repeat viewings, you get a deeper appreciation for the little nuances of the film, the subtle details that you missed, like Bruce Willis sitting in the chair opposite of Toni Collette. We think they're having a conversation. We think that like we're just cutting into the middle of the conversation, and like Bruce Willis's character is giving all this psycho mumbo jumbo, psychologist mumbo jumbo, and going on and whatnot, and then Toni Collette just gets up and walks away, and you think it's because she's not happy with what Bruce Willis told her, but it's not. She doesn't know that she's sitting there talking to him. Or the scene where Malcolm, his character Malcolm, is talking to Olivia Williams. Like, there's the scene where we think that they're in a fight because of the way that things are playing out between them. Or like when he shows up late to dinner and you think that she leaves because she's pissed off that he's late to dinner. Like, all these moments where we just think that their marriage is in so much turmoil. I mean, I guess technically it is, but it's more just like we think it's all this antagonistic stuff between them and their relationship, but really like it's just us and Malcolm witnessing her processing her grief, over everything that happened at the beginning of the movie. So like the perception in this storytelling is a huge piece of what goes on in this movie and makes it so flawless. And like how we how we perceive things in our first viewing without knowing everything that's going on changes upon subsequent viewings when we do know the truth about everything that's being laid out in front of us. And like that's what makes this movie work so well, is just seeing how this narrative is structured and then how your perception of what's going on changes how good the movie is. Mentioned Bruce Willis a couple of times already, and then I mentioned that Olivia Williams plays his wife. Haley Joel Osment plays Cole, the boy who sees dead people, whose mother is played by Toni Collette, in a hauntingly perfect performance of this mother trying to figure out how to connect with her son, and then like their last scene together when grandma shows up, and like the conversation that he has where Toni Collette finally comes to realization and like accepting of who and what her son is. Just the acting on her face while Haley Joel Osment is telling her the stories that his dead grandmother is telling him, like piecing like that scene is just flawless. Like it's acted so perfectly. The last big name in the movie is Donnie Wahlberg. He's only got one scene in the movie, but it is so important as it sets everything in motion. Like what happens in that opening scene and like Malcolm's thing that won't allow him to move on to the afterlife is just that guilt of Donnie Wahlberg's character showing up, Vincent, and like Malcolm's guilt over how he feels that he failed Vincent and led to the stuff that happened, the murder suicide that happened. Like Malcolm has to atone for not helping Vincent, and he does that by finding another boy who needs the exact same help that Vincent needed when he was a kid. And like it's really, really well set up, and like the emotional layers of psychology are deep in this movie. Like it's a movie about characters' desire to connect with each other, like to connect with people who are important with them, because they have to like overcome their own problems that they've gotten to try to make that connection. And like it's a ghost story, but it's so much deeper than just a ghost story. Like it's a true story about human nature. And like, yeah, there's paranormal elements to it, but like I think it's really close to flawless the way that these characters are written, the way they're portrayed, the way that the actors brought out the emotions of these characters. Like I really just love this film, and it still holds up to this day. Um, and I can tell you that for a fact because despite the numerous times I've watched it over the years, literally just got done watching it before I recorded this, and it still holds up as a great film. So like whew, there we go. Oh man, I'm sorry this was a long episode. I had a lot to talk about. I tried to keep it short, but like four movies on August 6th of 1999. It is easily one of the greatest weekends. I mean, not just in 1999, but probably one of the greatest weekends in cinematic history. Like as a whole, as four movies that came out, like I don't think any of them are bad. I don't think any of them suck. I think they're all enjoyable. I think they're all watchable. Two of them are far superior. Two of them are just good and fun and enjoyable. But like, what a great weekend for these four studios to all try to get some box office supremacy. And The Sixth Sense did, win the box office this weekend. Whew. So yeah, that wasn't a short episode. Next week, no Wednesday release, so I'll be back a full week from now. Got three movies to talk about next week. We got Bowfinger, Broke Down Palace, and Detroit Rock City. So we'll see what we can do, and I'll be back next week.